All right, in this video we are going to be looking at some image manipulation techniques. This is what Photoshop is really for, is for manipulating images, and the things we'll be covering in this video are some of the most common things you'll be doing to images. First of all, remember that we want to create a new layer for our changes whenever possible so that we don't destroy or damage the original image. So non-destructive editing. I'm going to go here and I'm going to create a new layer. Now, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about how we can use things like the masks along with things like the adjustments filter, adjustment masks, adjustment layers, in order to specify certain areas of the image that we want to affect. So, for example, to do something very simple here, without taking it too seriously, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick selection here. So, here we are doing a quick mask, and I'm going to invert my selection because it'll be easier to mark him up rather than marking up everything around him. I could have just done a quick selection around him and then adjusted it, but I'm just going to invert my mask when I'm done. So let's just very roughly paint him to start out. And then let's zoom in, switch colors by tapping X, make that brush smaller, and undo. Now for those nooks and crannies, what I'd really need to do is zoom in real tight on them, make my brush nice and small. But again, I don't want to get too detailed with this one. In a real project, you would want to get too detailed with it. You'd want to really get in there and make sure that you had a very specific selection. But for our purposes, this should do just fine. I'm just going to go with as far as his shirt. Alright. That should work. Well, we actually need to get some more of the shirt there. Make that brush bigger. Alright, we'll just stick with that for now. So I'm going to make that a selection, and then I'm going to... Oh, looks like it already has inverted that one. Perfect. So now what I want to do is I want to make a layer mask. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply a black and white filter to this. Drag that mask up to there to replace it. Now I dragged that mask from one layer to the next, and that allowed it to copy that mask, or to move that mask actually onto that layer. And you see that, again, very rough comparatively, but we have him in color, Anthony in color, and everything else in black and white. So these same sort of effects can be done where you go in and select just someone's eyes, for example, and then you can change their eye color, change hair color, change the color of a person's shirt. Just by making that selection only identify that one person or that one feature of that person that you want to affect, and then everything else will remain unaffected. Or, like in this case, you can affect everything else and leave that one person or feature unaffected. So that's how you'd be working with your masks and then your adjustments or other effects that you do in Photoshop. So let's delete that now, that mask. Go back to our original image. Actually just delete that whole layer, and once again create a new layer. Let's talk about another tool. We're going to talk about the spot healing tool. Now the spot healing tool, let's zoom in here. The spot healing tool allows us to get rid of certain things by automatically looks at the pixels around it and tries to find what it should fill those in with. This is great for things like dust specks in the sky, a pimple on someone, scratches on the film, things like that that we need to get rid of. The spot healing tool is right over here. It looks like a little band-aid, and it's got the letter J. So I'm going to come over here and just adjust the brush again. We got a really cute dimple there. Let's actually get rid of it though. Oh, you know what? I wasn't sampling all layers. That's why I wasn't getting rid of it as much as I wanted it to. There we go, sample all layers. We need to make sure and check sample all layers because of the fact that I'm working on a new layer. So it wasn't looking around it. It was looking around it on a blank layer, and I need it to look down underneath that blank layer at the very bottommost layer as well. So again, the way I would do that is check sample all layers, and now you see I can go here and I can just use that to get rid of that altogether. Now, that is the spot healing. That is the spot healing tool. There's another tool under the spot healing tool just called the healing brush tool. Now the keyboard shortcut to all of these under here are J. The healing brush tool works like the spot healing tool, but it allows us to choose where we want to sample. So the spot healing tool is kind of just sampling around that area. Well, maybe I know I want it to take from up in this cheek area. I can hold down Option on the keyboard and then click up there. And then when I come down here and draw, first again we need to tell it to sample all layers. When I come down here and draw, it's getting its information from up on that cheek. It's getting its information from up where I told it to sample from. Now this works well if you've got like patterns or things like that that you need to tell it to look at specifically rather than just the area that's right around it. So that is the healing brush tool. Now there's another tool that we can do much larger areas with, and that is the clone stamp tool. So the clone stamp tool is underneath that. It looks like a stamp. It works very similarly, but it's much more dramatic rather than being subtle like the healing tool is. If I go and I just hold Option, and so again, Option is going to allow me to sample what area I want to take from. I'm going to come and click right on her face there, and you see if I come down here now, again I need to change that to do all layers, sorry. So now if I come down here, you'll see that it's showing her face, and if I draw with that, it's going to actually fill that in right there. It's almost like a copy and paste where it's blending in from one area to a next. Now that can also help a lot when you're doing things like a large area of sky that's got some damage. You can take from another area and fill that in there. So that's the clone stamp tool. Again, very similar to the healing brush tool, but where the healing brush tool is much more subtle, much more trying to blend, the clone stamp tool is actually just really laying it out there and going a full copy. Again, make sure that you're telling it to sample all layers. Since we're working on a blank layer, we need it to look down at the background layer as well when it's taking its samples. So those are a couple of the tools that we can use to sort of clean up an image.